Welcome, everybody, to Integrate Yourself. I'm your host, Allison Pelot, and you can find me at pureenergypdx.com. Today, I'm here with Dr. Juliana King. She is a functional medicine practitioner based in Los Angeles, California. In her practice, she combines the 2,000-year-old lineage of Chinese medicine with functional Western medicine principles and mind-body awareness techniques to bring the body back into its natural state of health. She believes that the beauty of healing is not in the goal of attaining perfect health, but the profound transformation that occurs along the way. Welcome, Juliana. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Allison. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. You and I talked before. We talked about some really interesting things, and you and I are on the same page with a lot of what we talked about too, as far as like as it relates to what's going on in the world today, and our health and how to approach that for most people. So I'd like to just start right off the bat talking about and feel free before you even get started, Juliana, to share anything about yourself that you feel like people need to know before we start all of this. But we were talking about the modern environment and our level of toxic exposure or toxin exposure in our modern environment and how that affects our body, gut, and skin health. And I think it also relates to what's going on with the virus today and how people are responding to that. So maybe we can just start with that because I've talked about that before on some of my shows and in some of my social media posts about the toxicity of the environment, how it relates to our health. And I always try to just give people suggestions on what they can control when it comes to that, because there's other things environmentally that we can't control, but maybe we can just bring awareness around that today first for people.
All right. Well, scientists say that the human adult has around 700 toxins on average floating around their bloodstream and their tissue. And the average baby is something like 200 on average, which is absolutely terrifying considering their immune systems aren't even developed yet. So it is a huge problem. In my own personal life, I had an autoimmune disease, the triggers of which may have well been partially environmental toxins, and just became very sensitive to my environment and the foods that I was eating, and saw benefits through like one of the first sort of journeys I took down the path of getting better was detoxing my body. And I saw huge benefits. And so now I'm just a huge believer in it. So if you're feeling, like you're in your car and you're driving to work and you're like, God, I'm so tired. I have brain fog. My allergies are acting up. Maybe your bowels are sluggish. It's just the first place to look. And it's pretty easy to do, honestly. It's, you don't have to buy a fancy detox kit. You can if you want to, but just switching up your diet can be detoxing all on its own. And I know when we first talked, the reason this topic came up is because COVID-19 is going, and one of my favorite functional medicine doctors, Dr. Zach Bush, proposed this really interesting theory. It's not proven. It's his personal theory based on his own research. And he's basically saying that every time we have significant changes to our environment, new chemical exposures, extra radiation in our environment, a virus is basically like released from nature, and it gets taken up by the human body, and it's actually to update our genetic code. And
that's really cool. I love that theory.
I love it too. I think it's incredible. It really lands with me personally. It feels very true. And the thing that I guess people might push back on it and saying, well, if it's supposed to help us, like why are so many of us getting so ill and dying? And we're seeing that half the population that's being exposed to this virus, they aren't getting it. They're asymptomatic. Right. And generally these people, what we're seeing is they're quite healthy. And we've heard of outliers, but it's like, you can't really know, right? Until you actually, saw where that person lived and what they ate and everything else.
Right. There's so many other factors involved, right?
Right. So we're seeing that the people that are getting very ill generally already have health complications going on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, the average American, we've got 700 chemicals floating through our bloodstream, right?
Right.
So that's a high toxic burden, and your immune system only has so many resources. It can't like protect you from everything forever. It exhausts itself to some degree.
Yeah.
So if our immune system is constantly trying to fight off all the toxic burden that's entering our bloodstream through our skin, through the air, through food, it's using up its resources to protect us from a virus or a bacteria or a fungal infection or anything else. So yeah, it's a detoxing your body. It's like, this is something we can control. Like, you can actually take your health into your own hands versus like sitting at home and just being afraid all the time of this virus. It's like, why don't we just do what we can do to feel our best? And when we feel amazing, that's telling you that you are in good shape and that you're healthy and that you will likely recover from the virus pretty easily, or maybe not get it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Because your body is not taxed to the brim. Like, it is not, when you're able to lift some of the burden off of it in that detoxification system, then I think then you have more energy to actually fight off something like a virus, or to let it, move through you and kind of be okay. And, because like, obviously our modern environment, if you're living in a city, you've got air pollution, you've got chemical toxicity from, that's in the soil, lots of businesses. And even like I've noticed that Portland Parks and Rec, I think, or the public recreation group that goes, they the what is it, the forestry people, they go in and they spray Roundup in the herbicide, they don't call it Roundup. Ugh. But that's basically what it is. They spray it in the wildlife refuge trail area, and I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense, but so you're going through, you're breathing it, and then animals obviously and wildlife are also affected by that too. So even though we are surrounded by toxins in our environment to some extent, you can still control the level of toxicity that you take into your body through what you eat, like you're saying, mm-hmm. what you put on your skin, how you even breathe. So if you're a mouth breather predominantly, you can switch over to nose breathing mostly, and that does wonders for your physiology. But yeah, so there is some things that we can definitely do, like we talked about, to control that factor for sure. And that's a big reason why I wanted to have this show with you today. Let's talk a little bit about gut health and how it relates to over sanitizing, because we talked about how over sanitizing is bad for you. And so it's funny because, it started, we were, I don't know how many years ago this was, where the sanitizing thing came into play, and people were over sanitizing everything. Maybe it was the 90s. I don't know.
The 90s,
then, yeah. And then, we kind of learned, oh, damn, this is not really actually good for you. We're actually creating a very, sterile environment where we don't have any bacteria to even protect our bodies. So let's take a step back and stop using so much sanitizer. But now, as we step into coronavirus age, now we're going crazy with the sanitizer and the bleach again. So I think this is really also having an effect on people and their gut bacteria, and even, bacteria that is on your skin that you need for your immunity as well.
Right. So yeah, there's like a famous phrase. It's from, I think she's like a gut microbiologist or something like that. And she says, live dirty, eat clean, which I think in the COVID era would probably kind of scare people. But,
right.
the COVID membrane, the membrane around the virus is quite flimsy. So it actually breaks apart really nicely with soap and water. Like you really just need soap and water. You don't need to throw these like industrial strength chemicals all over your home and on your body in order to kill the virus. So just be sensible. We do have to sanitize more, but just use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Don't use something with triclosan, which now is banned in hospitals because it's creating superbugs.
Oh my God.
And I think it's linked to cancer. It's definitely toxic to the body. It's even in some toothpaste I've seen, which is completely horrifying that would go in your mouth. Wow. But yeah, it's like, don't do overkill. Just like use basic soap and water. You can use natural products with like, I think it's called like saponified coconut oil, which kind of has a surfactant quality, and vinegar. And you can use essential oils that have antiviral properties and make your own home cleaning
Doesn't
sprays.
like oregano have antiviral properties? That kind of,
Antiviral and clove and I don't know. I'm not an essential oils expert, but yeah, you don't need to like go crazy with the level, like the strength. It's just like soap and water and like just use like, I guess, your sense about everything about how often you need to be sanitizing, but just if you got to do the hand stuff, just simple alcohol is the way to go.
Yeah. If you don't have the soap and water accessible or something, maybe.
Available.
Yeah. And so it's just like not really doing anything different than you would normally do. I mean, I feel like I still, even before all this, I would still wash my hands pretty frequently.
Right.
So, but I think, it's just been, cause like when I was working in the gym towards the beginning of all this, it was like, we were having to use, because the gym was providing us with all this bleach and all these hand sanitizer and everything. And it was starting to get to me. I was starting to not feel very good. Like I was like, the bleach was giving me a headache, and so I was like, I can't work in this environment. So I can't imagine how people are actually doing that, especially in hospitals right now. That's got to be pretty tough to be around all those chemicals all the time.
A lot of those like chemicals that you're smelling, like when it hits your nose, you're like, "Ooh, this is not right." These are neurotoxins. It's bad for your brain.
Oh gosh.
And you're ultimately weakening your own immune system because you are killing off the good bacteria that's all over your hands. Like you're literally covered in bacteria that is good for you. And same goes for your intestinal tract. You're full of like not only good bacteria, but like a diverse like forest of trillions of bacteria. And you need the diversity in your environment and your diet to continue to keep these populations of bacteria flourishing. And when you're sterilizing everything and using microwave food and all this kind of stuff, you end up with a very poor gut biodiversity. And that translates to lowered immunity and more likelihood of getting pretty much anything that's in the air, bacteria.
Right.
Virus.
Yeah. And that's what Zach Bush talks about a lot, is he compares it to, or the metaphor, he uses the metaphor of the earth and the dirt, and how that needs the soil. Actually, the soil is your gut, right? It's a representation of that, and how the soil actually needs a lot of variability, a lot of diversity within it, with different bacteria and fungi, and and that's kind of like the Roundup is what kills all that stuff, and that's kind of like the sanitizer in a way. So so we have to have that diverse bacteria in our gut, and so we're able to actually fight things off, or
That's how we deal with our environment, is like you want as much information from the environment to go in as possible, so that you can deal with whatever comes your way. Like every piece of food you eat, every time you go outside and breathe a different kind of air or go into a forest, like your body's collecting information about the environment you're in.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's interesting, because that occurred to me after being locked down in the house for about a month or so. And then finally I had to go, and I hadn't gotten out, and driven on a trip or anything in a while. And then finally I was like, had to, I don't know if I told you this over the phone earlier, but my dad passed away in February, and we were supposed to have his funeral in March. And so
Mm-hmm.
the quarantine happened. So we had to put it off. And so then we finally got to do it in June, and I couldn't believe how much better I felt just from being in a different environment. And I felt alive, and I felt like I was learning things. It just felt like I'd never felt that before, because I'd always have the freedom to just come and go as I wanted to. And I still do now, not that I don't, but just because, we were all kind of stuck at home. But I didn't realize that, because I hadn't had to stay in one place for so long. And then I kind of felt deprived a little bit. So every time to get out into a different environment, like you said, it's just a new information. And I think we don't give that enough credit for, we underestimate that, how that relates to our health, and how this new information needs to constantly be coming in.
Yeah, it's like
for us to, and that's the
immune
virus
system
too.
practice. It's like getting in
Exactly.
new environments, being around new people,
Getting dirty. Like
getting dirty. I mean, it's sad, but it's like, it's also like, it's for your immune system to hug people. Like, and so it's like not being able to hug people, being exposed to different groups of people. We're not getting their germs, and our immune system is not really getting the right practice that it needs.
Right.
So
and then on weaker.
Yeah, exactly. It gets weaker. And then, as you mentioned, being in your home all the time, the home can be a very toxic place with the windows shut and indoor air. Your furniture off gases, your carpets off gas. Like, there's a lot of chemicals that like kind of fly up into the air, dust and mold and these things that also irritate the immune system. So if you have been spending a lot of time indoors, I definitely recommend getting an air filter in the home. Or if you live in a place where you can have the windows open all the time, or even better to do both, like at night, just to make sure you're running an air purifier. And if anyone out there has lung issues of any kind, like, do not hesitate to get an air purifier. That is like the absolute number one for you. If you're noticing that you're like coughing and you have phlegm and your lungs feel irritated or scratchy, or you're prone to asthma, now is a time to do everything humanly possible to make your lungs happy. And breathing clean air is at the very top of the list. So
that's so interesting that you bring that up, because I did feel like this year my allergies were worse than they'd ever been. And I didn't know, and sinus stuff too. I never get that, but I wonder if it was because I was inside more. Like, I feel like I've been getting outside of my backyard and stuff, but it's like that same environment. Whereas before I would be, at the gym or something where the garage door would be open and, lots of airflow and everything. So
I've heard a lot of complaints about increased allergies with my patients.
Really? Wow.
Well, at least like a few months ago, people are getting out a little more, but like the first like 2 months, people are like, I don't know why I have all these allergies. I'm like, a lot of people at least have a low level dust allergy,
That's definitely me. As a kid, I had a terrible dust allergy. Let me I got to let my dog in because he's barking. Hold on one second. He likes to be in here when I'm podcasting. He just likes to lay on the bed.
He just knows.
Yeah.
He knows when the mic's on. The mic must be on.
Come on, let me come in. I want to be a part of it. So that makes a lot of sense now that you say that, because I had a terrible dust allergy when I was a kid and kind of grew out of it. But it was pretty bad. This year, this spring, I was like, what is blooming that wasn't blooming before? But
it's like the dust inside is blooming.
Yeah. Inside
that's
more.
what's blooming.
Yeah. This is, so that's equally as not great. So getting outside more would be better for people, in general, just even in your backyard or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's across every level, just psycho-emotional health and, circulating the blood and being exposed to different types of bacteria. Dr. Zach Bush is super big on like soil, like being in touch with the soil and breathing sort of like the tiny pollens and things that come off the trees when you're walking. He's like,
so that's really helpful instead of harmful. Like, I've always, thought about that as far as allergies go, like that's going to inflame your allergies, but that's really actually good to do more of, is what you're saying.
Well, it can inflame your allergies if you have an actual pollen allergy, but a lot of times the root of people's allergies is a lot of toxicity in the body.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of times when people do cleanses at the end, they're like, I don't have this allergy that I had anymore.
That's true.
They
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
go away. So sometimes just when your immune system's like in tip top shape and you're eating super healthy and you're keeping an anti-inflammatory diet and you're eating organic, all of a sudden these allergies and just like funny little issues that you thought were just you, like some weird skin rash or something, it just goes away.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense because I remember when I first started eating organic and going gluten-free, that all happened for me. I think that was kind of the turning point for, oh yeah, my allergies and asthma are gone now. Great.
Yep. Same for me. That was an absolute game changer. Even my skin, I stopped getting like acne when I switched my diet to
Oh, yeah.
organic. That was like, oh, the acne is going away.
That's
You know?
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It tells, it's very telling too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like if
It,
ever I go home, I'll break out if I'm eating, just like back
oh,
at the
yeah.
holidays. And I like to go with the flow. I don't think I think it's really important for anyone who is interested in being committed to a healthy lifestyle and doing detox that there's times where you just let yourself like be in the moment and not freak out because our bodies are very resilient. So when I
Absolutely.
go home for the holidays, like I just kind of, to a certain extent, will just kind of eat whatever the family's preparing. And so that's like the one time a year I see stuff kind of like crawl back. And then,
Yeah.
I come back home and go back to all my clean eating and, I'm good to go. Skin's glowing in no time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I love it. No, I think that's a great strategy or way to our approach because yeah, we don't want to stress out about food and about eating perfectly, so to speak. It's really just about finding balance and
Right.
figuring out what works for you, right?
Yeah. Stress is a
Um,
toxin.
absolutely. Yeah.
When
And
it
that's
comes down to it. So
my God, yes. Well, I want to dig a little deeper into this dirty living thing. So, you and I talked about, you had shared a story about when you went to Tibet to do some work out there. And I thought that was so interesting because um, it just, it probably, it sounded like to me that it changed your perception um, completely of what it means to be clean.
right. So I was volunteering at a small hospital in Nepal, like in a rural village. And that we could not keep soap like in the hospital because people would take it. It was a very poor community and they couldn't keep a bar of soap around. So I didn't know that when I arrived, and I brought like this tiny little bottle of hand sanitizer thinking that I would have like access to soap. And that wasn't the case. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to use this sparingly. And at first I was like being really careful to the extent that I could. And I was like using more of the sanitizer and thinking like, oh, I have to be careful. People get like really bad gut bugs and all this stuff out here. And then 3 weeks in, I was like, I don't really want to be afraid every day of catching a bug. And I just thought, you know what, like I have an emergency, like really strong antibiotic should I get like a life or death type of illness. So I knew I had like some backup should something bad happen. And I thought, I'm just going to relax. Like, I'm just going to be like the locals. I'm going to wash my hands with water. Yeah, like treat people. Kind of no one's washing with soap anyway. So I'm just going to relax and see what happens. Maybe I get something, maybe I don't. It's a little experiment. And I was literally seeing like 20 people a day sometimes. And I think a few weeks like of that, people started giving me gifts because I started seeing people regularly. And the women there, they like wrap their waist in these like big waistbands, and they would like stuff like crystal rock candy in there. Like they'd stuff a bunch of guavas in there and just like wrap it up, and then they'd come to the hospital and just give it to me, and they'd be like, oh, I brought you this present. And I think in the second month, I was just like, you know what? I'm done like being afraid at all. If this is how they live and they're all fine, I'm diving in also. And so I would literally just pick up the guava and just eat it.
Yeah, right.
And just thought like, like so far so good. And yeah, I did 2 months volunteering there, and I never got sick. I never got anything.
Wow.
I didn't get a headache. Like literally
God.
Nothing the entire time. And people did come into the clinic like ill. I typically saw more like chronic illness, but in the front part of the clinic was like low level antibiotics and kind of things like that for people with stomach bugs. And so I guess not make credit, or how to say, or not to give myself too much credit. I wasn't dealing with like very ill people, but
Right.
I was just like exposed to just, trillions of germs and never got anything. And I came home, I tested, I did a whole like gut workup on myself, and I had no parasites. I had like absolutely nothing. I had a complete clean bill of health. And it just really challenged my idea of like how people get sick. And the conventional germ theory where you get exposed to a germ and it goes inside your body and creates a specific kind of illness. There's another theory called terrain theory, which is definitely not a proven thing and very controversial, which effectively says like kind of like your vibration and your pH, if it's like low, you'll like attract bugs into your body kind of thing, which is a much more metaphysical idea of health. But there's something to it about being happy, like being in your dharma, like doing your service in life, which is where I was in that space of just doing my work and being of service, which is the most fulfilling thing to me. And that was like why I was so like immune, I think.
Yeah. And doesn't that theory have also to do somewhat with the microbiome as well? Like that.
This was proposed like back in the day before that specific theory was proposed, before they like understood the microbiome. But we do call the gut profile of the microbiome the terrain. That word is also used.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense to me, knowing the spiritual and energetic side of life is, you are, I mean, if you just think about it, from a practical standpoint, if you're more depressed and negative all the time, I mean, are you going to feel good? And what are you going to attract with that? Your body's going to respond to that way of thinking all the time and feeling. If you're in a more optimistic place, if you're happy, if you're doing what lights you up, if you're in a better place spiritually, energetically, you're going to see that your body's going to also kind of go in that direction. So I think we haven't quite understood it scientifically completely yet, but I think many people experience that, right? On that level, for sure.
For sure. There's a man who writes about that. His name Bruce Lipton. The Biology of Belief is his work. And he does propose and pull from scientific research about this idea about how you feel and your mood and your thoughts and how it affects your health. And I believe that 100%. I've certainly seen that in my own life, and certainly seen so many patients where they click into something emotionally.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden their health just like shifts so quickly.
Yeah.
So,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about perception, right? I mean, it's how that's why I think it's so much more than the physical, or maybe maybe we approach it, integrating the physical and the energetic or spiritual, because, I don't think you can really kind of improve one without the other. I think they need both. They need
I mean, I preach that. That is like, that's literally the foundation of like how I built my practice and how I work with people, is that I will never hand them like some supplements and say bye. I'm always like digging into their emotional health and their relationship status and like what's going on in their work and everything, and how that's feeding into what's making them ill. Because I can't heal you of like, you have like I think the bowels are just like the most fascinating thing, because they tell you about like your emotional status.
They really do.
Of the time.
Oh my God, that's so true.
You can lie to yourself all you want about like the relationship you're in or your job or whatever, but like your bowels will like speak for you. And when I see someone who's like ill, I do a lot of digestive. That's like the first thing that's coming to mind. And like I'll see them ill, and it always is correlating. They're in a bad relationship, they're in a job they hate, like there's something going on from like a psycho-emotional standpoint that's contributing to their issue. And I always point that out. I say like, one of my last patients who's just in a super toxic relationship and had bowel issues, and I said, I know we can get you better, but I'm not going to get you to 100% unless you're out of that relationship. I can just tell.
Right. Well, because a high level of stress is going to slow things down significantly, right? And
Absolutely.
if you're getting all that stress from, if you're, having that emotional stress or spiritual stress, or, from like not doing, or going against really what you want to do, then when you're not happy, then that's going to definitely reflect in your body for sure. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
And that's showing, with COVID-19, people are carrying a lot of psycho-emotional stress.
Oh yeah.
This is a time, I truly feel like this is a spiritual awakening for people. And it's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating because it's happening en masse. Like everybody is collectively experiencing the same thing at the same time. Like,
It's
I don't know if this
wild.
has ever happened in the history of the planet,
I know.
because it's
I,
like we are a global society now. And so everyone's kind of going through the same tunnel. And I keep calling the quarantine truth, because it's like, you cannot hide. Like our
mm-mm.
lives are being, we have to slow down. We can't interface with other people. We can't really travel. It's like, if you're in relationships you don't like, if you're in a job you don't like you're just lying to yourself about like things you believe about
Yeah.
yourself. It's like you're coming up against it like 24/7
Right.
now.
That's very true. Yeah, you're just kind of facing the things that you could kind of, not you could be, I guess, in denial in before, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
not pay as much attention to because you were busy doing other things. Now you really can't do that so much anymore. It's like, okay, it's time to look at this right now, right?
Yep.
So
It's all in our face. No
yes. Oh my
turning
God.
back.
And nowhere to go in the world either, I don't think,
Yeah.
because,
Nowhere to
you
go.
can't. No, you can't. I thought about that too. I was like, I want to run away. No, you can't. Oh, darn it.
I've thought about
Um,
it too. And it's like, I love taking responsibility for my emotions. I think it's really fascinating. I'm always like, ooh, what does this mean? What is this belief?
mhm.
But even I still fatigue sometimes and just think, like, can I just fly to an
Yeah,
island for a minute and like get
seriously.
away from this for like 5? It's like, no,
Yeah.
we're just going to keep going with, yeah, slowing down, facing like each feeling for what it is and going through that
Yeah.
self-discovery process. um yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
a huge thing that people should, I hope, like take on during this time, because the more you can face, the more you can let go and you can unburden yourself so that you can feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an opportunity for many people to finally, live the way they want to live, and move towards their desires.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity, actually. And then also pay attention to things that maybe we want to change in our community, or in our world, perspective, and what we want to value as a community, right?
Yeah, we're all doing that. It's literally like
Yeah.
every issue that we've stuffed under the rug
Oh my God.
for like
It's all
literally
coming up at once.
centuries is like, it's
Yeah.
all rolling out. I just think it's so fascinating.
It is. It is. And like you said, it's fascinating to me too that everybody's experiencing a similar thing all at once. That's why I think it's so
Mm-hmm.
intense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so fascinated. I'm just seeing every like these clusters of sort of like mindsets and things pop up at similar times. And I think I was telling you when we got onto this topic that I've had so many people in the last 2 weeks contact me to do cleanse programs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I started feeling that too. It was like 2 weeks ago or 3. I can't remember. All of a sudden I was like, oh, I feel like I need to kind of like do a little detox reset. And then I started
Yeah.
getting all these messages from patients that, yeah, have like, been doing quarantine for a while and haven't been in touch, and they're kind of like ready to cleanse all of a sudden. So we're ready
Yeah.
to like let go of stuff
I think
emotionally,
so.
spiritually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean the body, reset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people that I've in my circle, and the people I've talked to as well. They they seem to be like quitting coffee and things that are overstimulating them. Like I think you had mentioned something like that too. And yeah, going towards more of detoxing their body, getting cleaner, focusing on eating cleaner, really focusing on, just nurturing and taking care of themselves a little bit more too, which I think is a beautiful thing. On In my life, I've been just like, not that I've had a lot of stuff anyway in my house, but I've been even paring it down more and just getting rid of stuff that it's just not necessary in my house. And just going through this process for months now where I'm just kind of repurposing spaces in my house for different things, you know?
So cleaning your physical space too.
Definitely. And that actually has been pretty amazing in how I feel. I'm just like not, and again, I'm not like a hoarder or anything, but um, I just realized that I've got things like in my shelves that I never touch, that I never use. Like, why is it there? You know? Um, why not just, you know, create the space on the physical level, and maybe that will you know, help me create the space on the energetic level, you know,
Totally.
for other things to come in.
There's like, I heard this Danish quote a long time ago, and he said, more space, more life.
Yeah,
And
I
I
like
always
that.
like that. It just feels like, yeah, it's true. It feels like you can live more, like more of you out
Yeah,
when there's like less stuff crowding you.
absolutely. And I've always been somewhat, you know, a minimalist for the most part, but of course I live with 3 other people. So I have 2 grown ass sons now, and a husband. So, you know, like once your kids become like, you know, 16 and 18, they're like adults. So it's like you're living with roommates. So, you know, yeah, it gets crowded with stuff pretty easily here. But I'm coming into a new way of you know, making that, like, creating a system to manage it. But yeah, the thing with kids, like, it's like from the time they're born, you start managing someone else's stuff. So
Yeah, I
it's
can
like
barely
extra.
manage my own, honestly. I'm always just like, how did this pile of papers get here? Like, what?
I know, what the heck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's go back to talking about detoxifying the bodies. And because I know that you help people with that. And you know, when, like you said, when you get that intuitive feeling about needing that detoxification, like what kind of strategies do you recommend people move towards in the very beginning, especially if they haven't even like done any of this before?
Well, the most approachable thing to do is really just focus on cleaning up the diet,
Mm.
and then you can add supplements under the guidance of a healthcare practitioner if you want. I would just caution anyone who's taking prescription medications to not do cleanses with any kind of supplements or herbs unless you get the sign off from your doctor, because you can actually dilute or reduce the efficacy of some of these drugs. So just be very careful if you're on any kind of prescription medications. But if that's not you and you don't have to worry, first of all, the food thing, it's so easy in a way. It's simple. It's cutting out sugar, dairy, caffeine, um, choosing all organic fruits and vegetables. You can choose to do organic meat, or you could go vegan if you really want to cleanse your colon. Sometimes it's better to do a meatless version, and remove all processed foods of any kind, like literally nothing from a box except some basic grains, some brown rice or some quinoa or some lentils. You know, get really high fiber. You want a bunch of antioxidants in your diet, so that means bright colors. So I say like at least 3 colors a day. Yeah, no sugary juices or sodas. You know, just look for, I love spring water. That's ideal. If you can't get spring water, filtered tap water is okay.
Yes.
But get rid of the chlorine at bare minimum, because the chlorine messes with your
Right.
gut microbiome. So
Yeah, we have something, we get spring water as much as we can here, but we also have this thing called Zen Water. It's like you pour, you know, you put the water in the top and then it filters it, but it also adds minerals back into the water, which is really important because even if you do clean the water, it still doesn't have the minerals, the essential minerals that you would get like from a spring water.
right.
And so it's a, you know, and that thing's pretty inexpensive, so I think anybody could get it on Amazon. But something like that is a good thing to do. And you know, of course you want to, you know, take out the fluoride and the chlorine in the water for sure too.
Yeah, to the extent that you can. I know like a basic Brita
Yeah.
won't remove fluoride. And then, you know, there's pesticides and, you know, pharmaceutical residues and all this kind of junk
Yeah.
in tap water. If you can skip tap water, please do. But I totally get it. If you can't, at least a basic filter to get the chlorine out.
Yeah.
And that's basically a cleanse. Like you can do that for 3 weeks. If you regularly have sugar in your diet. Oh, and I think I forgot to say alcohol, but I feel like that goes without saying. No alcohol.
I think we could mention that because I think a lot of people that is actually one thing I've noticed is it seems like the consumption of alcohol has gone up since this started, actually.
It has. It's
Yeah.
really bad. It is just how people are coping, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And that also goes to the point that when you remove all these things, your body will rebel. Like you can go through like a huge emotional process when you do cleanses. A lot of buried emotions that you haven't been willing to deal with will come to the surface, and you will have major mood swings sometimes, anger and crying and all these things, because this food has suppressed that. So the other piece when you do these cleanses is you need to have some kind of emotional clearing tool in your tool belt so that you can get through the cleanse, because otherwise you're going to feel crazy. Like you need a little tool set to ground you and get you through that process, whether that's meditation, journaling. I mean, exercise is incredible for kind of like resetting the body. And I'm a huge fan of tapping. It's just like my absolute favorite miracle thing.
Yeah. EFT.
The emotional freedom technique. And I guess the nickname is tapping. And you tap along points of the Chinese meridian. And you use these affirmations, like you kind of like tap your eyebrow point and the side of your eye and below the eyeball. And it clears emotions like fast. In like 10 minutes, you can sit down. I just had a girlfriend of mine do it last week, and her anxiety was so severe that her head was like throbbing, Oh
my gosh. Yeah.
And she did not believe me that it would work and was like kind of fighting me on it. And I was like, just try it. It's like 10 minutes. And so we had another girl with us. And so we all just did the anxiety one together. So it was like 3 of us like tapping for her anxiety.
It's relaxing too. And it's kind of like a neural reset, right?
Totally. I mean, her anxiety went from like 10 to 0. She finished and she was like, wait, my anxiety is gone.
What was I worried about again?
I know. And I was like, well, maybe you'll get like, it'll reduce like by half and she'll just feel a little better. And it just totally cleared up. And you can do them for any topic. So you go on YouTube and you can do anger, anxiety, like, feeling like low confidence, fear. My favorite guide, his name's Brad Gates, and he even has one for like COVID-19. He has ones for like fear around the pandemic. So when the pandemic was first hitting, I mean, I was feeling just the fear of the collective, just that I was feeling the environment around me. And so I would tap on that and it would just clear right out, and I could go live my life without holding all this like tension.
It is true, because we do hold a lot of tension in our head because of all the information coming through, right? And it's like you can't integrate it fast enough. So
totally.
And so I'd totally forgotten about EFT. I love that you mentioned that, because that is a great tool that is accessible to anybody.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
So easy to use.
It's free. It's free for everyone. It is such a beautiful tool. I wish we would integrate that into our society in a bigger way, teach it in the schools, police force, like anyone who needs like quick free therapy. It's really a miracle thing. I literally, any topic I have like the slightest irritation in my body around, I'll pull up and tap on it.
And you feel like it just goes away like that, pretty much. Some things will clear kind of forever. It's just like, that's just gone. And some it'll clear for the moment, but then it's like something that kind of comes up again, because as we heal in layers. So like I put a lot of pressure in myself. I love to put pressure on myself. So he has one on pressure. And I've noticed that like, as I've done it, like over the year, now I put a lot less pressure on myself. So it's reducing down, but at least in the moment I can clear it so I can focus on my work or whatever I'm doing, and off I go. That's really cool. I love that. I usually do like a meditation every day, like a 10 to 20 minute meditation just to clear my energy. But I like that tapping. I might start working that into again.
I mean, I love meditation. But I know a lot of people, they don't like to sit still. So I like tapping's like it's active meditation.
Right. Yeah, of course. That's great. I love it. Let's see.
I guess one other thing I could mention on cleansing is just a few foods that are ideal for cleansing. because a lot of people don't know, like there's some fun, amazing foods that they're multi-purpose. So like the cruciferous vegetable family, for instance, they help to detox excess estrogen out of the system. So if you're a woman that has like PMS and puffiness and like acne around the chin, like a cup or two of cruciferous vegetables a day can really clean up all that excess estrogen, which is fabulous, especially if you have like a history of breast cancer in the family. It could save your life to eat routine amounts of cruciferous vegetables.
So which one specifically? Because I've always known raw carrots to do that, but I've never heard that cruciferous vegetables would detoxify estrogen. Because I know some of them can be, hard on the thyroid, right? But
I really don't believe that if it's cooked. I have a thyroid.
I was going to say they have to be cooked. Yeah.
Sure. I have a thyroid issue, and I had read that many years ago when I kind of started my health journey. Avoid the cruciferous vegetable family, and I've just not found that to be the case.
Because you cook them really well, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't ever eat raw. It's just not good for your digestion.
No.
Like cruciferous vegetables are hard on the system.
Absolutely.
Whether it's kale or Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, like they're hearty vegetables. So I always cook them, but cooked, I have no thyroid problems whatsoever.
Oh, great. The kale is great to cook because, when you make broth, especially out of kale, that it releases the vitamin K, right? And so it's a great way to get that as well. But I like all those vegetables cooked as well. They for me, they just need to be cooked really well so I can digest them.
Totally. Some people, they need to add digestive enzymes or things like that. But really well cooked cruciferous veggies are truly, they can be a miracle product for women who have issues with estrogen metabolism. Sulfur-rich foods are super great for detoxing heavy metals. So onions and garlic are sulfur-rich foods. Beans are another great. They bind the hormone and shuttle it out of the colon. So think of it like a little magnet. So I love beans, and then also that lends itself to just generally fiber. It's going to help like clear the colon, and the diet rich in antioxidants is incredible for cleansing the body and just get the colors. Like if you have a purple potato and a white potato, like buy the purple one. If you have Romanesco cauliflower, which is bright green, or traditional white cauliflower, buy the bright green one. Just like get as much bright colors in your diet as possible.
Yeah, I've never tried the green one before.
It's delicious.
Is it? Okay, I'll have to try that. Cool. Well, let's see. Where else was I going to go with you today? Let's talk about, toxins that we could be putting on our skin too. And like, how we could avoid, because I was just actually talking about, this. I was talking to a client this morning about women and makeup, right? And how toxic makeup and a lot of skin products can be that women use. They can even be producing more estrogen in women's bodies, right? And that actually puts more of a burden on the liver for women. And so that also puts a burden on your detoxification system. So, and I know a lot of women like to wear makeup. I'm not one of those women. I actually feel like I look worse with makeup on than I do without. So I a lot of times don't wear it. Or never wear it. But for women who really feel like they still need to wear makeup, like, do you have any advice for how they go about like really searching for the least toxic form of that, or even skincare products too?
Definitely. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but something like women like lather like 25 different kinds of like beauty products before they leave their house, between the hair conditioner and shampoo and body lotion and face lotion and hairspray and all the things. You're like a chemical soup basically. Women who work in like the cosmetics industry and the beauty industry have very high rates of cancer because they're exposed to a lot of chemicals, and our government does not regulate the chemicals in beauty products very well. They have a banned list, but it's like 20 chemicals or something terrible. Whereas in Europe, it's like 500. There's like a huge difference. We do not protect consumers at the level of the government from purchasing harmful like home care and beauty products. So you do have to take it upon yourself to do your research. If you don't want to research anything and you just want it all handed to you, then my favorite resources are the Detox Market, available. They have an online website, as well as a woman who runs a store called The Organic Bunny. And they are both extremely meticulous about selecting products that have no chemicals of any kind, and they're all safe for you.
Great.
So those are our high-end non-toxic beauty companies. So you will pay the same prices as like department store beauty products. If you want to go cheaper, then yeah, you have to research yourself. And my favorite resource is called the Environmental Working Group. It's ewg.org, and they have databases. They have databases for personal care products, for home care products. You can even, I think, type in barcodes and like check each product that you have in your home. And it's like they cover all the major companies. If it's like a really small business, they might not have your product, but for all the like major national companies, they're all in the database, and they'll rate the safety of your product.
Gotcha.
So you can tell how
That's
toxic
great.
it is. Yeah. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. And so you can find any product there and just see where it's rated as far as toxicity goes, is what you're saying. It sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I think it's like green, yellow, red. They kind of, and then they'll list what chemicals are bad and what they do in your body. So you can really know.
Yeah.
And if everything you buy is in the red, like, don't freak out. Your body can recover and get rid of chemicals. So just as and when things run out, just start replacing with non-toxic. I would say the only person that should rush to do it are people who have like severe immunocompromised systems and are chronically ill. Just, I would say, get rid of any junk in your house as soon as possible. And pregnant women or women with small babies, it's another time to just get rid of it and start fresh.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just use a little coconut oil, some shea butter mix, just to kind of keep the skin hydrated and stuff. And mine's real simple. I really don't spend any money on products, but that's me. So I
unfortunately do.
Yeah, I know.
I'm such a girly girl. I just love all the goods. And
I know
a lot of people think that the natural care products don't work as well, or just don't have nice textures. And that probably was true 15 years ago, but that's definitely not true today. Like, you can buy very, very nice beauty products that are typically better than what you can find on the shelf, because all of the ingredients are like actively doing something good for your body. Whereas when you buy like store-bought, whatever, department store, L'Oreal, it's a lot of just like filler junk material goes in those products. So you get a lot more out of natural beauty care. And there are junky brands too, just like everywhere else. So yes, like some trial and error and research is involved in finding the stuff that you love. But I don't think my skin's ever looked better than when I switched to natural everything.
That's great. Yeah. And I find that, are most of those products mineral based, and are you able to find them like at the natural grocery stores and stuff like that, like Whole Foods? And
Whole Foods carries natural, and it's just a mixed bag. At Whole Foods, because they'll still carry stuff that's like might be a yellow, and I don't think they carry like the deeply toxic stuff, but they'll carry kind of like half and half stuff that still has like fragrance or some preservatives and things. It just depends how serious you want to go. I mean, there's some companies, like there's a beauty brand called like RMS, I believe, and I think you could eat the makeup basically.
Oh wow!
It's like some brands, it's because your skin is eating your makeup,
that's pretty
literally
much what's happening.
So everything that goes on your skin is going in your bloodstream at some point. And so there are brands that their ethos is, if you can't eat it, it's not safe for you. And there is some truth to that. So it's up to you how strict you want to go. I'm not super strict. I'll still wear some chemical things here and there, but most of what I put on my body and in my skin is natural. And I'm always like an 80-20 person. I kind of say like, do as natural as you can, but if there's something you really love, just trust that your body can like work around it. It's just about reducing your toxic burden, not like being so crazy and you're stressed and now you have this like emotional burden of like worry. and you're doing everything perfect. It's like, don't be perfectly non-toxic and then be freaking out all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know there are like some women that just really love makeup and they can't live without it. And so if that's the case, like you said, just go, go as non-toxic as you possibly can,
Exactly. So I love makeup. when quarantine happened, I was like, I think I'll go natural and like, accept my beauty as I am. And like, I think like a weekend, I was like, no, I really like wearing makeup. No one's even going to see me. I just want to put it on.
You're like, I just want to do it for me.
I just want to do it for me. So I get it if you're like girly out there. Honestly, you can DM me if you have questions. I will personally send you all my favorite brands. If you want to know more, I have hacked the system. I feel like I've found a lot of super great skincare companies and hair care that work, in my opinion, truly better than any of the synthetic stuff I've ever used.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I would love to actually. Well, let me get I'll get those websites down and put them in the show notes. And if you have anything extra, just email it to me. And I would love to know for my personal interest too. Well, cool. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to add to the show as we close up, Juliana?
Sure. I have a toxic burden questionnaire that I can send out to anyone who asks if they want to kind of get an inventory of how much toxins they're exposed to and just get like a sense of, whether a cleanse might be appropriate. So I'd be happy for you to email me or DM me on Instagram. I'm at Dr. Juliana King, and I'll get that resource over to you. It'd be my pleasure. I'd love to support anyone out there in their journey to feel good. Like this is the time, like we have a serious virus going around and your defense is like your good health. So take good care of yourself, and whatever resources I can provide to help, I'd be happy to.
And would they just contact you on your website? And
you can go to my website. My email is jkingacu@gmail.com. But if you forget or whatever, then click on the show notes and find my website. It's all there.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today. Thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom, Juliana.
Thank you. So fun to be on your show, Allison. And so fun talking.
Same here.